feet up on the desk, never. So this video is clearly going to be different because I'm honestly holding the mic. You know what I mean? Like, you never see me get on here and I'm holding the mic. I just wanted to, like, talk to all of y'all real quick. Probably not real quick. I might go in depth, but this is about, like, who I am. And for the people who know me, this is probably a lot of things you still didn't know about me. And if you don't know me, this is a good way to start, right? So, my name is Derek McCormick. I'm from New Orleans. My parents were, military, mainly my dad. We moved around a good bit, New Orleans, California, not too long in California, but majority of the time it was in New Orleans. So, born in Baptist, right? I had two cousins that were Filipino and white that lived with me from the time where I was 6 to the age of 9. I'm black and Filipino. And I went to an all-black school pretty much living in New Orleans. There's like one white student that went there. I feel sorry for her. I can't remember what her name was. I think it was Hannah. But she hung around with me and my cousins. Mainly, I want to say because, my cousins were the two lightest-skinned people at the school, being half white. And we got into fights a lot. A lot. Like, I had people that were like, do my homework, Jackie Chan. I'm like, do I fucking look like Jackie Chan to you? Like, do you even know what Jackie Chan looks like to you to compare me to Jackie Chan? Anyway, fought a lot. All right. So I'm just going to leave my, elementary like that. I had fun in elementary school. It was a terrible school. Like, I think it was a F school, to be honest, right? And then moving to Florida, right? We moved to Florida because not that we wanted to, but it's because of Hurricane Katrina. And Hurricane Katrina was pretty devastating because it completely wiped out pretty much a lot of New Orleans. Our house had 9 feet of water. My dad, whenever he went back to New Orleans after the aftermath to send pictures of what the stuff was looking like, I saw one of my dressers in my room was just like tilted in the corner on top of a bunch of crap, right? And I told him, I was like, Dad, I got some money that's in the drawer that you can use to like fix up the house. I'm like 9 years old thinking that that's going to do something, that's going to fix something, right? But, my parents, I'm pretty sure they appreciated it because my dad took the money anyway, right? He took the money, took it to the bank, it was all crusty. He tried to clean it up, but it's legal tender, Like the money was like covered in, like Lake Pontchartrain mud, water and stuff like that. And, they accepted it. I never asked for that money back. You know what I mean? Like, we tried to use that money for whatever we could to, like, get the ball rolling again. Because clearly now we had to restart all over again. Imagine being an adult, like in your 40s, 50s, and then you have to restart after you've spent all, your blood, sweat, and tears for your family, and then trying to provide, and then a natural disaster comes in and just wipes it all out. And that was a real hard thing for me to, fit in with a lot of people whenever I moved to Florida, because I ended up moving from, like a F school to a school that was seen as like a high C, B school. I think it was an A school. I don't know, but it was like it wasn't a D school at the time, whenever I was going there. It was a big school too. Like it was a majority, I want to say, like, actually, it was a mix, but, there was a lot more white students, Mexican, Asian, and stuff like that. It was just kind of like a culture shock to me because in New Orleans, it was like a total of 500 students. And of the 5 that were there, it was me, my 2 cousins, that random, that one white girl and the Mexican. And the rest of them were black, right? It was easy to fit in because a lot of people did want to, like, associate with us, but a lot of people also wanted to fight us for whatever reason, And we fought a lot. I didn't have that problem, moving over to, middle school here because nobody knew who the fuck I was. I think I just spit, but nobody knew who the fuck I was, nor did they care. And I was weird. I was the weird kid whenever I moved here. You know what I mean? Like, I had a lot of people telling me, like, you're weird as fuck, and I was just like, whatever. I dressed weird too. Like I was just wearing a tank top and just whatever shorts and some flip flops. Like I did not give a fuck. Like I didn't give a fuck. But it wasn't that bad. But the fact of the matter is that we still had to restart. Like I had to restart with friends. I had to I had no toys or anything like that. I had a PSP, but that was all I had that I brought with me as far as like clothes and stuff like that, and like everything else gone. My cousins, they weren't with me because their father came back into their lives after they had matured about 3 to 4 years and kind of was able to handle things on their own. Then that father was just like, oh, y'all are kind of grown now. I'm gonna take custody back just because y'all did all the hard work, like my parents, right? So it was kind of like he took away, 2 brothers of mine, and I was back on my own again, right? Like those are my only 2 friends those are the last 2 friends that I had in my life, and I did make some friends here. I don't really talk to them as much because that's just kind of how life goes, and middle school, that was pretty much it. You know what I mean? Like it was just me trying to acclimate to a new environment, and going over into high school, I set like my whole 4 years around wanting to go into ROTC and then join the military and then kind of just doing the same thing that my dad did. And a lot of people in Florida and Pensacola, that was their thing. Like they would go into the military and come out, after their 4 years, have that pay their school, and then, they start their career. Or they would just stay in the military for the whole 20 plus years and then have that be it and then live off the benefits, right? All solid plans, right? But still for me, even to today, is like, that's just not what I want to do. And I'm not knocking anybody who, chooses that route. That's the route you want to go. If that's your passion, be it, serve, do whatever you need to do. But for me, I really wanted to, because obviously I had set that as my plan, but I just never executed that plan because it just didn't feel right. So my first year of high school, I joined the weightlifting team on the account of a friend of mine's father. He was a little, wasted, and was just like, seeing all of us play like football, basketball, soccer. Like we were just grabbing anything in the yard and we were playing, we were going ham. And, he was just like, Derek, you're built for, basketball, soccer, not really contact sports. And I kind of took that, right? I was like, the fuck? I was like, I'm going to get big, and I'm still not big, right? But I'm bigger than I was. Like whenever I started high school, I was 90 pounds. I was like 90, 95 pounds whenever I started high school. And I think whenever I joined the weightlifting team, I maxed out my first bench at like 75 pounds. I want to say like 75, 80 pounds. And the football coach and the weightlifting coach, he kind of saw something in me, right? And he was just like, McCormick! I walked up to him. I thought I was in trouble, you know what I mean? And he's like, you want to join the weightlifting team? And I was just like, nah. Nah. And then he was just like, perfect. And he like put me down. He was just like, wrote me down. And I was just kind of like, what the? He was like, practice is at this time, right? And I was like, I guess I'm now, recruited into the weightlifting team. And I told my parents about it. And then my dad was like, okay, we'll take you to practice. How many times you got practice? And I'm like, practice is, I think it was like 4 days a week, 5 days a week, And let me adjust it. Yeah, it's like 5 days a week. And my mom, she was like, the main one that was worried about it because she didn't want me like breaking any bones since I'm sitting here like throwing weight over my head, doing clean and jerks and then benching. And she thinks like all this weight's going to crush my tiny body, stuff like that. But I was good at it. I was good at weightlifting. I stayed with it, because I was coming in first place all the time. And I was like, this shit is easy. You know what I mean? And I was like, let's keep going. Sophomore year, still killed it. I went to like subsectionals. I even got invitationals to like other schools to compete. Like the top 2 students from the weight class, or the top 2 students in the weight class, or the number 1 in the weight class of that school got sent over to compete in like a tri-meet and stuff like that. Like those were the kind of meets that I was doing because I was pretty strong for a 119 lifter, which was like the lowest weight class you could be in, right? I put on a good amount of weight trying to fill out my weight class, but not trying to go like spill over, which knowing what I know now, I was like, being in a 119, what I should have done is I should have stayed around, like 125, 126 pounds, and then kind of like dial it back, do like a water cut. But I learned all that stuff, more into my junior and my senior year, So fitness was my passion, and it still is, Like it's like fitness isn't something that's like fun for me, right? Like I said, a friend of mine, his dad told me that I wasn't cut out for something, and I wanted to prove him wrong, and which I did, because there was at one point I finished a meet and I took a picture, or I had a friend take a picture of me like winning, and I had held up my medal, and then I posted it on Facebook, and then he commented on the post and was like, he's like, "Congratulations, is that wrestling?" And I was just like, "Weightlifting." And still, he was kind of right, because it wasn't a contact sport, you know what I mean? But that is one thing that is in every sport. You have to train. You have to get big, usually. You have to improve your strength in order to be better. Like if it's basketball, football, wrestling, whatever it is, like you cannot just do that one thing and then be good at it. You have to train your body outside. You have to condition it. You have to lift some weights. You have to run, whatever. You have to do conditioning. So I just wanted to prove that I could be built for other things, right? And which I could. So I went to like, some football practices. I even attempted to go into some baseball practices. Like it just wasn't really cut out for me. Coach wanted me to do like try to become like a safety, but it was just like, it wasn't for me. I just like to continue into weightlifting. And then, my senior year, I did go to like, subs and super sectionals, and then I ended up not going to state because I couldn't make weight. So after I finished high school, and then getting into college, all the lifting was over. We ain't going on no buses, we ain't going to no schools to compete. Like, colleges, like some of them have weightlifting, but those are in other states where, weightlifting is huge, right? So I did have like a scholarship to go back to New Orleans, because that was our plan. We were gonna go back to New Orleans, but yeah, like that didn't work out. So I ended up staying, in Florida. So I was kind of lost. I really didn't know what to do. I stopped lifting, and a couple of friends of mine started to get back into fitness, and then I decided, they're like, you should like, just kind of train, just to continue on what you started. But the thing was, like, I was doing clean and jerks and like bench. Yeah, there's a bench in every gym, but no one is doing clean and jerks inside of like a normal gym. And at the time, I didn't want to draw attention to myself, so I didn't do it. I would only do it when there was no one in the gym, because, you know how like all these gyms are like, don't slam the weights, like I'm over here doing an Olympic lift that you have no idea what I'm doing. Like usually people who are coming up to you and telling you not to slam the weights, if you're sitting there throwing the weight around, then yeah, they have a good reason to tell you to stop slamming stuff. But when I'm doing an Olympic lift, and if you've seen someone do an Olympic lift before, and you know that it is very hard to just cradle it all the way down from it being over your head, if it's like, anywhere from your body weight to 100 pounds over your body weight. You know what I mean? Like, that is not going to be easy, and you might hurt yourself just trying to carry it back down. That's why they usually just drop it, and then they control it on the way down. As long as you maintain control on the way down, and you're not having the weight bounce around in the other people's, business, then I think you're fine. You're straight. Like, put some headphones in and mind your business. So, a friend of mine introduced me to a YouTuber named Bart Kwan, and then I was watching like JK skits, JK films, and then JK news, right? And then he ended up creating a gym, which was like Barbell Brigade. And this is where like my powerlifting, career started, or just like the journey, right? I fell in love with the sport immediately because I didn't have to do cleans. It was just squat, bench, and deadlift. And I was like, that's easy, and I excelled at it, right? Like the first time I decided to like max out on my deadlift, conventional, I think I was still around like 124 pounds, 127 pounds. I did like 355. And I was having fun. I was like, dang, my strength level is actually pretty decent to compete with people. And I decided to do, like a 12-week program here and there. I did some programs by Bart, just a couple workouts that I saw him doing online. And then I decided to sign up for a USAPL meet, right? The USAPL meet was held in Birmingham, Alabama. I signed up as soon as I could. I told a couple friends about it. I didn't expect anybody to want to go or show. No one pushed me into like going into the meet. I kind of wanted to do this for myself because this is kind of the journey I started, from high school. So I go into the meet. I end up competing. And you know what? Funny little story. Like I ran into this dude named Roderick, and he was like, nothing against being small or nothing. He was like the smallest dude there. He's like 5 foot, right? But he was like a cannonball. He wasn't wearing no knee sleeves, and he was warming up on squat like 315, just repping that out. And I was like, I'm screwed, bro. I was like, why did I sign up for this? I was like, I'm screwed. But then I found out on my luck, right? Like he was a lower weight than me, as big as he was and dense as he was. Like I said, the dude, I think he finished the meet out like benching over 300, squatting 400, and then deadlifting like 455. You know what I mean? Like this dude was a fucking monster. But he was in a different weight class. He was in a weight class below me. Whenever I was competing, the director was kind of like nudging me to like sign up for multiple positions, right? She wanted me to sign up for the junior, sign up for the open, and like the deadlift only and stuff like that. And I was just like, nah, it's and the bench only. I was like, nah, just I'm okay. Just juniors is fine with me. I don't want to compete with everybody. But she was just trying to tell me like, yo, if you compete in all of these slots, is like you will win, And she just wanted me to get more medals, you know what I mean? And then, more money for them. But I wasn't really thinking about it. I wasn't really educated enough on how it worked because it was my first meet. So I won one gold medal whenever I could have gotten like 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Just on a default because no one was in my weight class, right? But I was expecting people to be in my weight class. But since the lower weight classes aren't very common in powerlifting because it was still and it still is a growing sport, the more common weight classes were like the 170s and up, right? Like the average male is around like 185, like 200 pounds. So those weight classes were filled up. But, anyway, I continued to pursue, weightlifting, and I loved it, and I wanted to like learn more about it. I went to school for it. I got certified as, a strength and conditioning coach, and I loved to coach people. And I did a couple of other things, like a couple side hustles here and there, and those things didn't really work out. I did come under an injury, a couple years later during a local meet at the gym I went to because it wasn't really, it was poorly handled. You know what I mean? Like it was just not set up correctly. I ended up tearing my ab. I had like a stage 1 tear in my rectus abdominis, and it took me about 3 months for that to heal. And then rehab. And then so on top of the rehab, I had to build back the strength that I had lost, which was completely almost all of it. I think I lost like upwards to around like 15 pounds just because I wasn't able to train. Like, look, when you tear your ab, you can't do a tricep pull down. You can't bench with an arch. The only thing that I really could do was squat because I wasn't pulling my abs. They were more contracting. The problem with me doing anything was whenever my abs started to, pull. So that was extremely hard and painful. And then after I overcame that, I came back and I was still like better than ever. Like my weights was climbing. I ended up, accomplishing one of my goals in deadlifting over 500 pounds. Ended up benching the heaviest weight I ever did. I think it was 265, and I squatted around like 360. But this wasn't in meet. Those aren't meet numbers. Fast forward, I sign up and switch federations. USAPL, it was just kind of stiff and stale for me. You know what I mean? No offense to anybody who's in the sport. It was just whenever I did it, a lot of people were like nerve-wracked whenever it came to competing, which I understand. If you're wanting to win and place, it can be one of those nerve-wracking things. But I noticed that whenever I went into USPA, people were super chill. People were like a little bit more welcoming, to be honest, right? Like in USAPL, everyone just kind of just like not want to talk to you. Like, you know, like I did socialize with a couple people. I made, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 friends, which is pretty cool. But USPA, it just, the atmosphere was a lot better. And they have a deadlift bar. If you don't know what that is, it's a separate bar from how USAPL uses the same bar across all 3 lifts. And USPA, they use the same bar. Sometimes it's different. They use a 55-pound bar for like the 185 and above on squat, and then they go back to a 45-pound bar whenever it comes to bench, and they use a deadlift bar on deadlift, obviously, right? But, you know, in the lower weight classes, we would use the same bar for squat and bench and then switch over to a deadlift bar. And I like the deadlift bar, and, you know, I still use it. I still use both bars. But I ended up, you know, like I said, I ended up breaking a record in Alabama, but since I wasn't a resident of Alabama, I couldn't hold that record in my name, so it was an unofficial record. But still, it was an accomplishment that was huge for me because I came in first. And there was somebody in my weight class, right? And then they ended up switching because I don't know if it's because they got fucking spooked and they saw like my starting numbers, right? My openers. And they said someone moved up to the 74 kg and because there was nobody in it. So that person took first by default, right? Just kind of how like I did again. And then I did another meet later on, and then this time I actually had somebody in my weight class, right? And I was excited to like finally compete against someone to go like one-on-one with, right? And that meet was probably the most fun meet I had because it was definitely a nerve-wracking meet because this dude was neck and neck with me. Like we tied on bench, right? We did all 3 of our benches. I think we tied on bench. He was leading me, or I was chasing him on squat by like 20 pounds. But whenever it came to deadlift, I made up for it. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, like, I had no idea that I was competing in non-tested, right? So anyone who's juiced out of their, you know, their mind can, you know, compete in any weight class, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And I was competing in the open, I believe, at this time. So this dude was like 48 or something like that, 50 years old, and he drove all the way from New Orleans, which is cool because, you know, that's where I'm from. He came from New Orleans just to lose. No, I'm just playing, but he did lose. But I was kind of nervous because whenever I learned that it was untested, I was like, oh, this dude is juiced out of his mind. Like, he's about to come up in here and bench like 315, squat 500, and then deadlift like 700 or 600, you know, 600 something pounds. Like, he's been lifting for my whole lifetime is what I'm going into this, you know, thinking. But I came out with the W, you know what I'm saying? Like, on my last deadlift, I told, you know, one of my homies, I was like, go ahead and pick my deadlift. Don't tell me what it is. I was like, just pick it, and I'm going to just go out there and do it. And you know what? I went out there and did that shit and ended up placing first. And I'll probably put my Instagram at the end of this video if you want to follow that. I got a lot more followers on there, and I haven't really been active on it because I've just been paying attention more to YouTube. And but I should probably do both, but I just haven't been. And so after, you know, that meet, everything started going downhill, you know what I mean? Like, the vid came out, you know, and kind of just wrecked everything. But I was still going downhill from, you know, a toxic relationship, and I finally got out of that. And then, you know, the vid happened, and then we all went on lockdown, and so I wasn't training as much, but I did have a weightlifting set that my dad had bought me, you know, whenever I was in high school that I had to work with, and I had, you know, friends come over and come train, but we kept it safe, you know what I mean? Like, I made sure that I wanted people to come over and be healthy and then train and make sure, like, they're following all the guidelines and, you know, not trying to spread it. You know, I wanted people to come to my house and then, you know, make them do better, make themselves better instead of just staying at home and being stagnant, you know, and just wasting away. So, that kind of, like, the vid kind of put a damper on everything because that's like 2 years that everybody lost. That was like 2 years. And, it was just really rough because I didn't know if I wanted to really compete anymore, right? But I ended up getting stronger again, getting back into it. My numbers came up. I hit a PR, you know, on my high bar squat, like my high bar squat, I got it up to like 335, and that was insane for me because I was always low bar squatting, right? And then my deadlift hit an all-time PR. I did 565 on deads. It was ugly, and it was with straps, but that's the most I had ever deadlifted, and that was crazy for me because I was around, like 147, 148, and the heaviest I ever got was like 158, right? And so I'm getting into that too. So whenever I was bulking and I was getting into my weight, I was going into different careers. I used to work at a BMW dealership. That's why I have a BMW. Ended up, getting let go from there because of some shit that was going on. It had worked for a friend's family company, right? And ended up leaving that because there was a bunch of bullshit that was going on in there too, right? So that's why I ended up leaving there. But it was like, it made me realize, not at that point, but at that point in my life around it, me and my girl, we got into a bad car accident, and that's where like everything kind of changed for me. Like whenever the accident was happening, it was a car accident, and it was just like one road, and then we were in a black, I think it was a 2020 or 2019 Camry. And there was like a Sonata, it was like a SUV that had like bald tires from what a friend had told me after we had, left to go to the hospital. He said the tires were bald, but at the time the car like spun out and then turned completely sideways in the road, and it was like at a split second because they kind of they like fishtailed and it turned back around, and then they were right in front of us, and it was like a 55-mile-an-hour road. And, since the fact that they had swerved out, their speed had decreased, but they were still coming up pretty fast. And they're probably coming around like 40 miles an hour. And I kid you not, I had no time to like react because it just kind of spun out like right in front of us. So I probably got the car down just only 5 miles. We were only going 50 miles an hour, but we slammed right into the car in the side. And then we ended up getting pushed. The car hit us again, and we got pushed off into a ditch. And I thank God that I'm alive today and that we didn't hit the trees, because that tree is rooted. Those trees are not moving. If the car hits, I felt like if the car hit it, we were done. Because whenever we hit the car, we bounced. Like when you hit another object like that, you're gonna bounce. But whenever you hit a tree, that car is wrapping around that tree. You know what I mean? I thought, like, my life flashed before my eyes. I thought everything was over. Like, whenever the cars both settled in the spots of the wreck, inside the car, since, like, the airbags went off and there was just dust and, like, debris, like, everywhere. Like, my leg is just bleeding. I have the video of it, too. And I'll probably post it later. Hopefully I don't get, like a strike or anything for that. But, like, I couldn't open the door because it was just stuck because, it got hit on that side too. And I look over and I see my girlfriend, like, her nose is bleeding. And I was just like, I was in a daze, right? Like, I opened the door and then my leg gave out and I fell on the ground. And I was, like, laying on the ground in the grass, and I hear, like, some people yelling. They're like, "Don't move!" They're like, "Stay there, man!" They're like, "You got in a bad accident." And I'm just kind of, like, laying there for, like, a split second. I'm like, are my legs gone? I was like, are my legs gone here? And then I get up. And then I'm, like, limping, and I had to, like, go around the car to go check on it. I'm, like, trying to open the door. The door wouldn't open. I, like, pulled on it some more, and the door's just like, like, opens up. And then there's just the airbag, like the side airbags are just everywhere, and then I just see like there's blood, and I'm like, what the? I see blood on her leg, and I was just like, this. And I like had to get her out because at that time I didn't know if the car was gonna blow up. I didn't know what was gonna happen. You know what I mean? And I pull her out. We kind of get away from the car. We had a Yeti cooler because we were going to, Foley, Alabama to get some shaved ice and stuff. We were going to take it back. So I put the cooler down. She sat on it. And then I was like, hold on. I was like, you okay? And then she's just like checking her nose. She's bleeding. She's still beautiful. She's bleeding. And I was like, I have to get a video of this. I was like, are you okay? And she's like, my arm is numb, right? And then we end up finding out later at the hospital that the whole time that we were waiting on paramedics because they were taking forever, and we were waiting for the police to show up, which never showed up. The police didn't show up until after we were gone. After we were gone. they showed up. And, you know, I took the video and I was like, let me try to like get all the damages. I have to get this documented because that's what my dad told me to do. You know, I made sure she was good. I made sure I was okay at that time. And then I started documenting everything. Like I took a video of her. I took a video of her, you know, her shoulder, her hands, everything that she said was feeling weird. I did a walk around of the car. I didn't even walk. I was limping. And I took a video of the car, zoomed in on the license plate, made sure I wanted to get all that information and everything. And they had like a bunch of people that are running out. They're just like, "Hey man, quit moving, man, quit moving." And I was just like, I gotta get this, just cause I don't want, I didn't know in a situation like that if they're gonna be like, "Oh, it was his fault," And I was just driving straight, And my girl, two of her family members, they ended up coming, like her sister and her boyfriend at the time. They end up, coming up, picking us up, and then taking us to the worst new hospital that has ever been put up. Like I don't understand how a new hospital can be so terrible the way that they handled everything. But we get there and we're getting wheeled in, and then we tell them that we just came out of an accident that was up the street, right? And we're in wheelchairs. There's blood all over my leg. There's blood on her face. And, the lady's just like, go ahead, input your ID and information on the monitor. And, in my head, I'm like, bro, this world is so disconnected in the fact that there is, like, no priority given to another individual. Like, are you just so desensitized to, like, not want to help people? Right? And anyway, like we ended up finding out that her shoulder was dislocated. She had nerve damage in her hand. I have a giant gash that's in my right leg that had to get stitched up because there was a hole. My left knee, it had fractures in my left knee that were like kind of splintering, and there's fluid. And then so again, I felt like, maybe like powerlifting and just being an athlete just wasn't cut out for me because I just kept, having to overcome a lot of these injuries. And this happened last year. And I went through rehab for a while. It was probably the hardest rehab I ever went through. They were killing me in there, but I liked it because I felt like I was getting better, which I did. And I haven't competed since, but I've still got that competitive itch. And we're here today, you know what I mean? Like, but after coming out of that accident, it kind of changed my whole outlook on everything. Like, I ended up getting a good payout, out of the accident, and a good settlement. Like, the other people, they took accountability for what had happened, and we ended up getting paid. And then, a lot of the work situation was going on where I wasn't agreeing what was going on in the workplace, and I decided to part ways with them. And what I mean by like my whole outlook really changed by the accident because it was still ongoing. You know what I mean? I was going through rehab and I was thinking of things. And at the time of the accident, whenever I got up and after I already assured that she was okay, whenever we were in like the hospital and I'm like laying in that hospital bed, like in the gown, and then I got like, the medical band on and stuff like that and the mask. And I let my parents know that I was okay. And stuff like that, and they wanted to come up. They were gonna come up, and I was like, you know what? I'm about to be like discharged like real soon, so I'm gonna see y'all. There's no point y'all coming up here. I was like, I'll see y'all in like maybe 20 minutes. While I was like sitting there waiting for doctors to finish and clear us out, like I was like, what have I been doing? Like I've been working my entire life, and not living. So. Going through the hurricane and having to restart, because even before the hurricane, my parents, since I was like an only child pretty much, my parents took me to work with them, so I would just work with my parents. My whole childhood was just work. Whenever I was old enough to go to work in high school, work. I had a volunteer job when I was like 13, and I worked all the way up till I was 18. Got a new job when I was 18, worked all the way up to, 22, 23, got a new job, and that was the last job I had. Like, I was just always just working instead of just living, and I never had the chance to experience, like, other things or like, really actually dial in on my passions or just take the hobbies that I enjoy doing and making them my passions. So like I said, I started my YouTube channel in like 2011, and I posted like maybe like, I think it was like 4 videos, and one of the videos took off, and it was my first powerlifting meet, right? So you can see that whole video there that I'm talking about, where it was just me. But I do think, and I'm so grateful for all of the friends that had showed up to that meet and supported me. Obviously, like things, changed. That was almost, I think it was over like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. But what I'm getting at is that it took all of these disasters, I want to say, for me to like finally understand that for me, I don't think if you have the ability to do what makes you happy, I know that a lot of people have like family they might have to look after, but I'm not different in that situation. My parents are older. Like my dad's in his mid 70s, my mom's in her mid 60s, and I've always felt the need to work my ass off so that I can take care of them. Not saying that I don't want to, but I never really put myself first. And I always, tried to please friends, impress them, and my parents. I always wanted to take care of them. I always knew that I needed to get like a good career and just save up as much money as I could so I could take care of them, because they're not getting any younger. But whenever I finally had a talk with my parents about, everything that was going on and how I wanted to pursue passions of mine, they were very supportive, and they were like, you need to stop worrying about us. It was like, we're your parents. It's like, we're supposed to worry about you. And then they're like, from now on, they're like, don't worry about what we're doing. Take care of yourself. And that was like a huge weight that was just lifted off my shoulders, because I didn't know how to react. Like I never felt that kind of support, because I never attempted to reach out for that kind of support, because I always felt like I would be getting in the way of what was currently going on, trying to like rebuild from the hurricane and everything like that, But we're in a new house. We've been in this house for, like 5 years, 6 years, and it's a great place. Like it's way better than any place, that I've lived at previously. But it just goes to show that if you start one day at a time, you will make it to your destination. So just enjoy the journey and just live each day at a time. Yesterday doesn't matter. Tomorrow isn't promised. Focus on today, So that's what I'm doing. I want to go ahead and then document all of my, moments on, YouTube, not really for my sake, but for the day that I have children, they'll be able to see, how I lived. And I'm glad that I have memories that I made from almost, 10 years ago on the internet, because it'll be there forever and they'll be able to see it. And one of the most important things that I can tell to everyone out there that might want to start a YouTube channel or already has a channel and they just don't know what video to put out, just do it. Just put the video out. Confidence and courage aren't present without a little bit of fear. You know what I mean? That's the whole point. Like when people say you're very confident in yourself, it's because they know that there are things to fear and there are anxieties that get in the way of what people want to accomplish. And whenever you can look past that and, take the next step forward each day, that makes you, a stronger person, and then something in an idol in some cases that people want to look up to. I don't know how long this video is, but dang, 39 minutes. But yeah, I just want to let everybody know that whatever you're going through, it's just for today, and I'm not saying this like, let's say like you have like an incurable disease or anything like that, and obviously it's going to be there tomorrow, but you don't know that. You know what I mean? Just live for today and just do the most you can, because I promise you, right? If you think about it this way, if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow, how would you live today? Would you sleep in? Would you, remain depressed and be like, what's the point? Me, the way that I like to think, I'm going to try to get as much done as I can for me, you know? Like, whenever you pass away, the world's just going to keep going. You know what I mean? Everyone that you left behind, yeah, they'll mourn you, but they're going to keep going. They're going to keep working on themselves. They're not going to forget you. If you left an impact on their life, they're not going to forget you, you know? And that's kind of like what I want to do with YouTube. I want to do things my way, because to everyone's different. Everyone is unique. There's no one like you. Like, can you think about that real quick? If you believe in God, right, which I do, there is no one in this world that is like you. You are one of one. There is no one in the world like you. Does that mean that no one can relate to you? No. Everyone goes through the same hardships. Not exactly the same, but everyone goes through hardships. Some might be way more than others, but people will relate to you. There's almost 8 billion people in the world right now? Or 8 billion already in the world right now? You mean to tell me that one person cannot relate to you? Whenever I made this account and I posted that first video, I had no subs. None. Somehow ended up coming back to YouTube and I had like 23 subs. And I've been on YouTube for about 5 months and now I'm at 135. It ain't nothing to, talk about really, but for me that's a huge accomplishment, because whenever I look up the statistics when it comes to YouTube, I'm in the top 1% of YouTube. So just live each day at a time and you'll be fine. I think you'll be very satisfied with the life that you lived. Because if you just wake up and then drag your feet and then just kind of feel sorry and down for yourself, that's not going to do anything for anyone, including you. So my message for anyone who wants to pursue their passions and their dreams, do it. Like, it's not too late. Especially if you're in your 20s, 30s. It doesn't matter. Especially if you're in your teens, that's perfect. Start doing something, develop it, and then have it turn into something that you can just, completely just keep passing on. Get better at it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think that I was going to be good at weightlifting, and I ended up coming out with a record, like a state record and gold medals. And even having, people ask for advice because they see all the accomplishments you made. They see all the accolades you've acquired, and then they're like, okay, this girl's been doing this, so why don't I go get advice from them, right? So don't just like wallow in yourself and think that it's too late, because the world is in a shitty state right now. My dad told me, don't worry about all the issues in the world right now, just worry about you. He's like, control what's within your control. So I do my best to stop worrying about what I did yesterday, what I did last week, or what I did last year, or whatever happened, or trying to think about, oh, this is going to take too long, this is going to take years. Who promised you years? Who promised you would be alive for 3 more days? How do you know that? You don't. So if you're here today, just work on what you can today. And then if you're lucky enough to wake up tomorrow, be better again and again and again. And they will all just keep building on top of each other. So that's all I have to say, and that's pretty much how, there's a couple of things that I've left out, but for the most part, that's pretty much like who I am. I hope I, gave enough information about who I am and my character and, what I expect out of, YouTube. It's not really what I expect out of YouTube, but it's something that I've been wanting to do for over, 10 years. And I was just kind of too afraid to dive all the way in. So, for anyone, bottom line, TLDR, right? If you want to start YouTube or whatever it is you need to, you have to lay it brick by brick. You're not going to get there and be a success overnight. There are rare occasions where people do become a success overnight, but most of the time, people built on top of it. And I promise you, I'm going to be something. I'm going to be somebody on YouTube. And even if I'm not even here anymore, right? The internet isn't going to go anywhere, right? The internet's not going anywhere. Whenever I'm gone, the internet and the world is going to still keep turning. And you know what? My account is still going to be there. And if YouTube wants to keep pushing me through the algorithm, I promise you, that sub counter, it's going to hit 1 million. I don't know. It could be 100 years from now, but I promise you, it'll hit 1 million. I'm already at 100. It'll hit 1,000. It'll hit 10,000. It'll hit 100, and it'll hit 1 million. I'm not saying it's going to happen in a year. I'm not saying it's going to happen in 10 years. But even if I'm not here, it will happen. And I'm putting that out there. Anyway, if y'all stuck around this long to listen to me rambling and, talk about my life and, you can do whatever you want with yours. But going through my 20s, like I said, don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't compare yourself to other people, because you're not them and they're not you. So do what you can. Live for today. Don't stress tomorrow. And, keep on grinding. All right, y'all. Later.